Hey friends, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome and to part 2 of our series all about the systems that have kept us disconnected from our body. In the previous episode, we talked about purity culture. Today, we are talking about hustle culture and how ambition and drive and all the things surrounding discipline and ambition became the new obedience. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, there is an emotional entry point for each of these systems at play and the emotion that is used to control, manipulate our behavior. And this particular one, not necessarily an emotion, it's kind of more of a physical state of being, but it can turn into an emotion, is exhaustion. All right. And I almost hesitated to bring this into this conversation only because I feel like talking about it has become so diluted and watered down because I feel like we hear about it all the time. And maybe it's just me living in the bubble that I live in, but I feel like we hear about it all the time because we hear about it, how it plays a part in burnout, and burnout has been a little watered down. So I hesitated, but the fact is, hustle culture is so pervasive and it is such a huge piece of the patriarchy and how it keeps women sick and burned out and exhausted and chronic dis-ease in the body. It's that feeling of, you've done everything right. You're checking the goal or checking the boxes, hitting the goals, but you're exhausted in this way that you can't quite explain, right? This is the exhaustion we're talking about that's driving this hustle culture. And we use the exhaustion typically, I'm going to get into this, we typically use this as a badge of honor to talk about how busy we are. That's like your badge of honor in hustle culture. The fact is, this is just another way to keep us disconnected from our body. So in the last episode, we talked about how purity culture disconnected our bodies through shame. And today we're talking about this system that picked up right where it left off. It found a new way to disconnect women from their bodies, and it's hustle culture. Let's first talk about how hustle culture repackaged override as virtue and ambition and drive and success and discipline. The fact is that hustle culture has made rest feel like laziness. It has made boundaries feel like weakness, like we're falling behind. And so when you're embedded in hustle culture, you always feel like you're one step behind. Like you can't quite catch up. You can't quite get ahead. You're always one step behind. Here's the thing that I always find interesting when I think about this. And I will say this, all of these systems I'm talking about, I have experienced firsthand, as we all have. So I just want to preface this episode by saying that this is not me. There's no shame blade judgment on anyone in the midst of this or navigating this. I've been there. I've been there. And I was talking about my own journey with that, but I've been there. But I always think it's interesting when we talk about, when we think about hustle culture and this perpetual need to quote, get ahead, and this consistent feeling we have that we're behind. And I thought about this. Someone mentioned something similar to this the other day and something I was listening to. Like, how do you get behind in your own life? Like, it sounds so absurd. When we think about it out loud, we think we're behind. Behind from what? I mean, yeah, you could compare yourself to everyone else, but how can you be behind in your own life? So it sounds so just not logical when you think about it like that. But that's really what hustle culture does to us. We've made exhaustion a status symbol. The quote, "I'm so busy," is this badge of honor. And this is, think about how many times you're making small talk and you're having talk, and that's the first thing out of your mouth, or it's the first thing out of the person's mouth you're talking to, is how busy they are, how busy I am, how busy life is. And we've normalized that. We've made that so normal. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of over it. Like, I'm kind of over talking about how busy we are. I don't want to be busy anymore. It has disconnected achievement from joy, which is why you can work toward a life that you don't actually feel. And I have had so many clients in this position where they are so disconnected from themselves. They have been so deep into this hustle culture and achievement culture and all of that they've gotten all the things and they don't feel anything about it. They've just been so disconnected from themselves. If we think about the language that we use that drives this narrative, that drives this culture, we talk about powering through. We hear in the bro world of, no days off, you sleep when you're dead, all these things. And even we have conversations, small talk, like I mentioned, and the first thing we say is how busy we are. Think about what it's actually teaching about our bodies. It's teaching us that our bodies are machines and something that we can just demand into submission and keep in check to get what needs to be done. And that our bodies are not machines. They're not. Hustle culture has turned our bodies into this productivity vehicle, something you fuel it, then you can push it and extract the maximum output from it. It has separated us from the divine, sacred creation that it really is. And that's a fact. I'm not trying to over spiritualize this or anything at all, but that is an absolute fact. We have completely separated ourselves from that energetic spiritual side of us when we dove first into this hustle culture and made our bodies just a vehicle to control and push and then extract from, making our relationship with our body completely transactional. And that's not how we were designed to be. And the fact is that we've created an entire wellness industry, the wellness industrial complex, around optimizing the body rather than listening to it, to treat just another way for us to treat our body like a machine. Say this, I am in the wellness industry. So yes, this is me criticizing the industry that I am in because there are a lot of things wrong with it. And honestly, I feel my calling even deeper now to expose these things, the harmful aspects of it and the questionable ethics of it, and just where the holes and the gaps are. I feel that at such a deep level because it is the way that it is conventionally. I'm not saying everywhere, because there's a lot of people in the wellness industry that I have on my podcast, for example, that are not in this conventional ways of doing the wellness industry, but the industry as a whole it's still another patriarchal construction. Like that's how it's set up. And the wellness industry, just like anything else in the machine, the quote unquote machine ways of doing things, i.e. the patriarchy, it has interest in keeping women dependent on external answers. And it's so it can stay alive and keep you needing more. I have to find the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so you're always looking for the external answer. It has an answer for everything so that you keep needing it to give you the external answers. Even in the holistic wellness space, this is another place for performance, another way to optimize rather than to listen. We get caught up in the fixes and the strategies and the biohacking and all the ways to quote heal, and our bodies become just something else to manage, something else to fix, rather than something to listen to and heal and have an actual relationship with, like a two-way relationship, and not you just forcing and pushing it into submission. So there's a difference between adding more tools and actually coming home to yourself. I say this too. I'm not against the tools. I'm not against the holistic tools. I'm not anti-supplements. Obviously, I use all these things with clients. I'm not anti-tools. The tools are important. The tools are helpful. The holistic remedies and strategies and tools, all of these are helpful. It's just how you're using the tools. There's a difference between using the tools as a way to fix or manage or even override your body versus listening to your body and using the tools to come home to yourself, like a way to support this in yourself. And I'll put a link in the show notes. I have a really great episode on the difference between a masculine approach to healing the body and a feminine approach. And I really, really recommend listening to that because I dive in much deeper into this conversation where I talk about the role, like how the tools do play a role in the healing, but our focus isn't on the tools themselves. It's really, really good conversation. So I recommend that. This is what I want for my clients. The tools are the tools, and there's a gajillion of them, right? There are endless lists of tools, Eastern holistics, Western holistic stuff, Ayurvedic, like there's so many tools. And I love the tools. I love learning about the tools. We can use these, but for my clients, for the women in my world, I want it to be a journey of self-discovery and learning to listen to yourself. And then we figure out what tools body is asking for, what tools the body wants to use. We let the body lead the way. That's the feminine approach to healing. We let the body lead. That's not what hustle culture teaches us. And that's not what conventionally the holistic health and wellness space teaches us. And the fact is, it's really not teaching us how to listen to the signals in our body. And this is why high achieving women are often the last to recognize burnout we've normalized a lot of the symptoms. So we're just like, oh, this is normal. I'm getting older and my hormones. And we find a million reasons to justify why we feel the way that we feel. But also it's because they've been overriding the signals for so long. They've turned the volume all the way down on those signals. The language of the body is speaking to them and they're like, nope, turn it down. Like, I'll ignore that for a while. I'm just going to turn it down so I can't hear it. They've turned it all the way down. It is that so many women, and I have seen this in women that I work with, are praised for pushing through. They're praised for pushing through. They're praised for just keep going and the nonstop. And it's tenacity, it's discipline, we've all these things. You know what it costs them? It costs them their bodies, their fertility, their mental health, their relationships, their joy, fulfillment, their ability to be fully authentic themselves. They've become completely disconnected from themselves. They don't even know who they are anymore. Like there's a cost to this. There's a cost. And just like in the last episode, I want to give you some tangible ways to recognize this in yourself. It's in order to heal the things, we have to be aware of them. So I want to bring awareness to some of these sneaky little behaviors that hustle culture has really ingrained in us for you to feel this in your body and recognize this within yourself and recognize the patterns that are playing out in your body. So see if any or all of these, I probably say all of these have been me at one point or another. So like full honesty here. So be honest with yourself here. So first, I'm just going to go through my list that I created. You can't rest without feeling guilty. Even on vacation, you're half working or you find time to work. It's like, oh, no, I'm relaxing. I'm relaxing while I'm working, but you're still working because you can't stop. First thing in the morning before you check in with yourself. You schedule everything except for recovery. And then you wonder, you measure the quality of your day by how productive you were and not how you felt. That doesn't even play a part in it. You push through exhaustion and you call it discipline, tenacity, ambitious, driven, those other words. You eat at your desk. You skip meals. You forget to eat entirely when you're in a flow state. And it gets to be 4 p.m. and you're like, oh, have I even eaten today? Did I eat today? You are running to-do lists in your head at all times, even in the bath, during sex, when you're trying to fall asleep. Like the list keeps going. Yes? Anybody ever had their to-do list pop in their head when you're in the middle of getting it on with your partner? Yeah. You feel vaguely anxious when you're not doing something, quote, productive. And you have defined that very clearly in your mind, what productivity is and what something productive is. You say yes to things that your body is screaming no to because the opportunity feels too important to really honor your boundaries or your limits, knowing that you're going to be draining yourself. You tie your identity so tightly to your output that a slow season feels like a personal failure. Because in your mind, it's always have to be on the up and up and up and up. And heaven forbid there be any of seasons or cycles to anything, especially your body, because you have tuned out of those. So everything else, nothing in your life is cyclical at all. You interpret your body's signals as inconvenient. I don't have time for this. It's so convenient. The fatigue, the hunger, its weakness, it's inefficient, the all of these things. Inconvenient. I don't have time for this. This is interrupting my flow state. You have a complicated relationship with asking for help because, well, for multiple reasons, but I'd say the majority of the time it's because needing help means that you're not enough on your own, right? Inadequacy is what that equals. Recognize any of those in yourself, maybe all of them. I know, as I said, literally all of those have been a part of my life at some point or another. And I have healing journey, and I have been in the depths of burnout. And the hustle culture really is, it's honestly a combination of all these systems that I'm talking about. The purity culture I talked about last time, hustle culture, and then performance culture we'll talk about in the next one. All of these push me to my severe case of burnout. And I've talked about my own journey on the show before, but essentially I just hit the depth of burnout and I didn't even know how bad I was. And I was going through my functional practitioner training and I had to do labs on myself. And I did labs, my hormones, and it was, my adrenals were like in the toilet, barely functioning, hardly producing any cortisol at all. Other hormones were low and all over the place. My gut was a mess. There was so much going on. And I had normalized. Honestly, I felt like I was healthy. I felt like I had normalized so many things looking back. I had tuned everything. that my body was saying, mostly because I thought pushing through was what I had to do in order to be successful. And there's some symptoms of that. That was my thought. I'm like, well, there's going to be effects of this pushing through. I'm pushing hard. I'm planning. I'm tenacious. All those words that I've mentioned that are really just all over hustle culture. And I thought, well, that's what I have to do to be successful. But the fact is, there is the cost of all this, of getting sucked into hustle culture. Yes, it's your body, but there's so much more than chips, your joy, your fulfillment. I mean, my body took a to come back from that, mostly because it was multi-layered, multifaceted, and I had to heal those parts, like the patterns, physical part of the body. I feel like, I mean, I'm not saying that's the easy part, but for me, it was much more challenging getting patterns. I mean, they were just ingrained in my brain. Like neural pathways were like carved very specifically to operate in a certain way. So like rearranging and rewiring all that was quite the task. So body, obviously my health, my relationships, my relationship. I know there's so many conversations I had with my husband at the time. There's a period of time where I wasn't married going through this, so it wasn't an issue because I didn't have it to answer to anybody. It's like, oh, just do my own thing. And I'm working 24/7 and there was multiple conversations with my husband after, we were married for, and it was like, oh, this is how it is, huh? And us having disagreements and confrontations about how much I was working, just not being able to turn it off, not being present. I think that was the biggest thing for him, is I just wasn't present, because even when I wasn't working, all I was thinking about was work, and I couldn't turn it off. So he didn't feel seen. He didn't feel heard. It was, having like a in-depth conversation was like pulling me away, pulling me out of that work bubble was like, yeah, that was a lot. And two, disconnected from my joy. I remember there were years of my life, and I can say that now without getting emotional. There was a long time where I got emotional thinking about it. There were years of my life where every day was me just getting through the day, was powering the day. And not to say I was suffering day in, day out, but it was like, in my mind, it was like, I got to get through another one, because I was just trying to get there, the quote unquote there, the elusive there, wherever there is. I had it there in my head. I don't know what the there was, but I was trying to get there. And so every day I could get through was just another day closer to getting to there. And again, just a rat race. That's the hustle culture. It's the hustle. And the hustle is infinite. There is an infinite amount of hustle culture, and there is no end in sight. There was no end. And I didn't realize, sucking the joy out of me. There were days, I would go days without seeing the sun. I would be inside working all day, every day. I would not see the sun. Days of that at a time. And so this said, the hardest for me was undoing all of that conditioning, undoing all of that. And it's a whole new, it's like an ego death, right? We've talked about an ego death on the show before. You have to let this old version die before the next one comes forth. And there was a slow and painful death. I'll tell you that. There was a lot involved, a lot of grieving, a lot of fighting. My little monkey ego mind wanted to fight against that growth part. Like it was tough. Hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire, and you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care, because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing.
this isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality, and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the quantum reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show.
And, of course, there's things that too. It's not all the same. It's all sit every day. Media for 2.5 see the things pop up that it's just screaming these messages back to you. For me, I know one of the things that was the hardest for me to let go of was that productivity, busyness part of it, especially my brick and mortar, because I have a team. Their business, it's me, myself, and I, but I have a team with my brick and mortar. And so for whatever reason, I just felt the need them to just see how much I was working, how busy I was. I had to be the hard worker. I have to be the hard worker. So it was all about performance and productivity, just to show that I was valuable and I was worthy. And nobody was even looking at it. Nobody was looking at that. And that was probably one of the ones that stuck the longest. That was the hardest for me to let go, to be able to have actual quote or slow where I'm not working on that part, or they didn't know I wasn't working on that part. And the other piece, and here's what I challenge you. There's a challenge for this episode. Can you redefine what a good day looks like to you? And I challenge you with that because this is what has helped me to rewire this part and kind of untangle the actually I want to say two things. So what does a good day look like to you? And check in with yourself. So ask yourself that question and then check in with yourself. How much of that definition is about what you produced and how much how you felt? And for me, that's how I measure my good days. My definition of a good day has completely changed over the past probably 6 years, 5-6 years. First, it was always about how much I could get done, how many hours I could work, how productive could I be, how many things did I get to check off my to-do list. And to be wrong, sometimes fall back into patterns where I'm asking myself, what did you get done today? Or to feel what did today, quote, I think about a good day. And when I'm putting something in my little gratitude jar, it's the days when I felt like I've had space, time in between the to-dos I have to get done, space to just be, space to think, space to be creative, space to tune in and, talk to God, have a conversation with my guides, those kind of things. When I've had the space to do that and just had space to be, those are the good days. And I remember too, there were so long where it felt like I had to earn the rest. I know you probably resonate. And now I go through times where I'm like, man, I had more rest. I want more. And it's funny, 15 version of me would probably not believe this version of me now is oh, how can I sit still longer? It was just a painful thing. That's one. The second thing I want you to ask yourself, what would you do with your time if your output wasn't the measure of your worth? What would you do with your time if output wasn't the measure of your worth? Really what I want you to think about with this question is what brings you joy? Because that answers the question. Maybe it's different for you, but if you think about it that way, if you're having trouble, if you're struggling with answering that, what brings you joy that you spend your time on? Things that you like to do. You might be like me, how I was. If you asked me this probably 6 years ago, I would tell you I have no freaking clue. No idea. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer the question. And over the past few years, especially over the last 2, I've really been diving into this. There's all these things. I found puzzles again. If you follow me on Instagram and listen to podcasts, I've talked about this before I went into this. It was really pretty and intense dark into this whole period for me, and puzzles were my go-to therapy. But puzzles have been a big thing. I got back into reading books nonfiction and fiction books, mostly fiction. I've pretty much always read nonfiction, but getting back to reading fiction books, painting, plants, flowers. I redid my whole backyard with, landscaping. I did it all myself. Ballet, and I've taken an advanced adult ballet class now. Yoga, my 5:45 a.m. class I've talked about. These are the things that I want to spend my time on that have zero measurement of my work. There is no no measurement by these things. I'm doing it simply because it brings me joy. And that's the thing. We talked about in purity culture just how much purity separated us from our sacral power and that center of creativity and sexuality and self-expression and all the things. And hustle culture does the exact same thing. When you are so immersed in these things, your work is tied to your productivity. It is separating you from that sacral power. You have no capacity to even recognize what brings you joy and find the joy in them. When you can't get to that point where the things that bring you joy and pleasure and are like as Dr. Kimberly Rose Pendleton says, it's your default setting, like having that pleasure be your default setting. That's your approach in life. When you get to that point where that's your default setting, it doesn't matter anymore about the output. And when you are so immersed in the doing, and that's all you know is the doing, you are separating yourself from that sacral power, from the ability to even find joy and pleasure in the little things throughout your day. And really, that's the cost of hustle culture. The costs are so much more than the physical, right? And yes, we know the hormones, your cortisol, your nervous system, all of this. Yes, I see it. I see it. I see this in the labs. The science of this is real. Your minerals, the inflammatory markers, all the things that are out of balance. And outside of the physical part, there's the creativity that you literally cannot access, your inner knowing, your intuition, your nervous system. If you cannot access those parts of you, if your body doesn't feel safe, it shuts down. It like shuts those parts of you in a closet and like locks them inside. Like your intuition and creativity, you literally can't access them. And your creativity lives in the body. And when you're disconnected from it, you're disconnected from your creativity, your sacral power. That is your sacral power. And then think about the emotional costs. I mentioned earlier about that non-connection, that when you just kind of feel flat, like you just can't feel, like you feel nothing. You think about the relational costs. I've talked before about my own experience. You can only be as present with others as you are with yourself. And that's something that I learned. That was a big lesson for me. And because I would get so triggered by my husband when he would be, make comments. We'd have these conversations about, me not being present or working all the time or always being on. And I'm like, what do you think I'm doing? Like, what do you think I'm trying to do? I'm trying to build this thing and I'm trying to build it. Right? But what is the energy behind that? Yes, I'm trying to build it and I want to build this thing, but the energy behind it, it's that forcing, it's pressure, it's frantic, urgent energy, all of it. And it wasn't from this place of like deep intuitive guidance and creative flow. Of course, you can't be present with anybody else if you're in that frantic, forcing, pushing energy. You're not present with anything else because your nervous system is completely a wreck and you're leading from that place of pressure and urgency. And that's the cost. So we've got this shame from purity culture telling you that this is dangerous, that your body is dangerous. It's got to be managed and controlled. You've got hustle culture telling you that your body is an obstacle to what you're trying to achieve. And then there's the third system. And this is the one that I think might be the most insidious just because it can often be the most invisible. And we're really good at twisting things to make this sound normal and sound like it's not that bad. And it's performance culture and the pressure to just appear okay, and how this pressure to just appear okay on the outside, it detaches us from our bodies. And I'm going to dive into this in the next episode, this last episode of this series, to put all three of these systems together and tying it to how all of these are really just three arms of patriarchy. And I want to explain what that means too. Whatever you think you know about patriarchy or don't know, or if that word triggers you in some way, I want to untangle this and give you a little bit deeper insight into why these three systems are really all arms of the same animal, if you will. They're all attached to the same animal. And if you're resonating with everything that I've talked about so far, everything that you're listening to, the last two episodes, if you haven't listened to the last episode, highly recommend going back and listening to that because it'll also help connect some of these pieces. Then I want to invite you into this 4-week immersion experience that I've created called Attune. And Attune is where we help you
connect to the intelligence of your body and allow your body to become your greatest authority, where you stop outsourcing your authority. You start learning to hear what your body's actually telling you and how to interpret the signals, and instead of ignoring them or overriding them or pushing them away or suppressing them, where you're going to learn how to regulate your nervous system in a way that feels natural to you and not just a way that you think you should be doing it. And I'm tying all this into your human design. So this is totally curated and customized to you. So you're learning how to do this for your unique body. So if you're someone who has either you've felt that you've been disconnected from your body, or after listening to all this, you're thinking like, okay, maybe I am disconnected from my body. If you're someone who feels like there's this deeper path that you're meant for, and maybe you just can't fully trust yourself to follow it yet. If you're done totally relying on outside answers that you know your body knows, and you just, again, you don't have that wisdom to be able to follow just yet, to be able to tune into it, that's what this program is for. This is your opportunity. Because when you are able to stop outsourcing, when you are able to truly listen and understand what your body is saying, this is how you create life differently. This is how you create a life that's fulfilling, and you build it with intention. You build it on purpose. You're able to build your mission and get your medicine out into the world and help other people. This is where your power stops being something that you know you have, but you don't have access to it, to actually having access to it. So the link to this is in the show notes, and I have a special founder member pricing going on right now. That's a really incredible way to get started with this work with me. It's really a no-brainer, honestly, for this deep work that you're going to be doing with me in this 4-week experience. So go check it out in the show notes. I would love to see you inside to dive into this juicy work together, and I will see you in the next and final episode of this series.